Amid some scenes of panic buying and empty shelves, supermarkets have asked shoppers to be considerate and refrain from stockpiling so others aren't left without things that they need. Retailers say that they are working with the government and suppliers to avoid shortages. But are they prepared? Joining me now is Tim Lang, who's Professor of Food Policy at City University in London. Professor Lang, thanks for coming on the programme. The government has said that the supply chains are guaranteed, the supermarkets will not run out of food. Do you believe those guarantees?
No, but I understand why they're saying it, and because they're saying it on normal conditions. The public doesn't really realise over the last 40 years or so, there's been a revolution in the food system. We don't have storage, there aren't warehouses, or not like there used to be with months of food. It's all just in time. The food system has borrowed from Toyota cars a system of literally having the food arrive at the supermarket back office just in time. That's very easy to disrupt. That's not me saying it, that's all logistics people know that, the supermarkets know that. So they need us to carry on behaving as normal. Now, listen to what Tony Costello from UCL was saying just before me. We're actually having to do catch up on planning. Britain actually used to be very good at food planning, but it was rolled back and run down. We need to think about that later. Right. But right now, we need to actually recognise there's a mismatch going to happen between supply and demand. OK, well, given everything you've said, should we now then have organised stockpiling? No, because the system can't deliver it. Look, Britain, I've just written a book, it's not out yet, but it's out very soon, called Feeding Britain, where I've just gone through, I mean, it was written before coronavirus, but looking ahead and looking at the present insecurity of Britain. Britain only produces about half of its own food, you know. Actually, last year it was 53%, previous year 51, 50, 40 channel or through the tunnel. And the government has been playing posturing with that. The reason, with no deal Brexit, the reason I raise that because the government's own internal figures and own internal advice said, prepare. This is very dangerous. Clog up.
Tim, so just briefly, one final question. One final question to you. What should the government be doing now, especially since borders all over Europe are closing? In 20 seconds.
That's right. They've got to actually set up a food planning committee. They are now beginning to talk more widely with the food industry. I worry that they're dumping responsibility onto the retailers. I sometimes call the default British food policy, leave it to Tesco et al. This is not a good policy. Government must get a grip. And actually, it's beginning to do that a little bit. I hear the arguments going on from my public health colleagues, but that's not happening in food. Okay. They're relying on the food industry to deliver when actually the food industry probably can't.
OK, Tim, I've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Well, churches, mosques,